The female CEO turned janitor. The mop handle was heavier than it looked. Celine Voss had commanded boardrooms, negotiated nine-figure acquisitions, and once stared down a hostile shareholder revolt without blinking. But on her first morning as Eleanor Ruiz, facilities associate, she nearly dropped a mop bucket on her own foot. Smooth, she muttered under her breath, adjusting the navy overalls she'd bought from a uniform supply store in Cash. Careful, always careful, and squared her shoulders. The Meridian Airport VP lounge stretched before her in all its curated serenity. Warm leather chairs the color of cognac, floor-to-ceiling windows that opened onto the tarmac like a postcard, recessed lighting that made even the tired look luminous. She had designed every inch of it. That was, in fact, the problem. Celine had built Meridian Hospitality Group from a single regional lounge into a global premium travel empire. Forbes had called her a velvet-fisted disruptor. Business Insider ran a headline, "The woman who made flying feel human again. She wore it like armor." But 3 weeks ago, an anonymous letter had landed on her desk, typed, no fingerprints, just 12 lines outlining what it called a culture of deliberate neglect, managers skimming supply budgets, maintenance requests being ghosted for months, service staff afraid to speak up because their department heads ran the place like fiefdoms. Her board wanted an external audit. She wanted the truth. So she went in herself. The blindfold metaphor she'd carried in her chest for years, the one that said, leadership is making decisions for people you never actually see, finally cracked open. She needed to see, really see. And so, the overalls, the ponytail, the deliberate smudge of concealer to downplay the bone structure that kept appearing in magazine profiles. And, at her operations director's quiet insistence, a sleep mask on the morning she'd been guided through the staff entrance. A trusted HR contact thinking they were running a leadership empathy exercise. She hadn't expected him. His name was Daniel Reyes, and he was the lounge's director of client relations, though. On her first day, she only knew him as the man in the port, charcoal suit, who watched her mop the same stretch of floor 3 times, because she hadn't realized the water needed changing. "The bucket," he said simply. She looked up. He was standing a few feet away, hands loosely clasped, not unkindly. Brown eyes that held the particular patience of someone who had corrected many things without ever wanting to make anyone feel small. "I know," she said, before she could catch herself. She said "I know" the way she said it in meetings, quick, decisive, a verbal door slamming shut. His eyebrow lifted, just slightly. "Okay," and he walked away. She changed the water. Her face burned. The second day, he brought her a coffee, not with ceremony, just set a paper cup beside her cart, and said, "Night crew drinks the good stuff. Day shift gets whatever this is. Sorry in advance." She laughed before she meant to. It was warm and a little bitter, and possibly the best coffee she'd tasted in 6 months, which said something about the quality of the food she'd been eating at 12-course client dinners. "You always do this?" she asked. "Bring coffee to the cleaning crew?" "I do it for anyone starting out," he said. "The first week is the hardest." She thought about the last time someone had brought her coffee without wanting something in return. She couldn't place it. Over the following days, she cataloged everything: the supply closet locks that stuck, the HVAC unit humming off-cycle in Gate C, the way one particular supervisor spoke to the younger staff, in a tone she'd have had HR address in under an hour, if she'd witnessed it upstairs. She photographed maintenance logs on her phone. She listened, but she also found herself lingering near the windows, where Daniel sometimes stood between client check-ins, watching planes taxi in the low morning light, with the concentrated stillness of someone who hadn't quite made peace with their life, but was working on it. "You like planes?" she asked him once, beside him at the glass. "I like what they mean," he said. "Everyone in one of those is going somewhere, leaving something, or arriving at something. That's a lot of weight to carry." A pause. "I grew up around here. Used to press my face to this same glass when I was 7. Thought airports were the most magical places in the world. Do you still?" He turned to look at her, and something flickered, something like, "When was the last time someone asked me that?" "Some days," he said quietly. "Some days I just see the logistical nightmare." She smiled. "I know that feeling." 3 weeks in, she was close to everything she needed. The dossier in her encrypted drive was comprehensive and damning in the most fixable ways: problems with solutions, not catastrophes. The kind of thing that made her want to fix it rather than punish anyone. But the thing she hadn't planned for was the way he made her feel like Elena Ruiz. Facilities associate was somehow more real than Celine Voss had been in years. He didn't defer to her. He didn't need anything from her. He handed her the correct floor cleaner for the marble tile without making her feel stupid for not knowing. And he argued with her once actually argued, cheerfully, about whether the lounge chairs should be rotated quarterly to distribute UV damage. She said yes. He said clients preferred consistency. They went back and forth for 10 minutes with neither of them winning, and both of them smiling about it afterward. She hadn't been disagreed with genuinely, casually, without political consequence in longer than she could remember. On her last scheduled day, she was finishing up near the west windows when he appeared with 2 coffees, as though he'd been counting down to something. Last day, he said. It wasn't a question. She startled. How did you? HR said the empathy exercise participant would be rotating out this week. He handed her the coffee. His eyes were steady, careful. I don't know what you were really doing here, Elena, or whoever you are. The ground shifted beneath her feet. She held the cup with both hands. I noticed things, he said simply. The way you looked at the maintenance logs like you were auditing them. The way you got angry, really angry when Marco spoke to the interns the way he did, but you didn't say anything. Like you were collecting it. He paused. You weren't practicing empathy. You were building a case. She could have deflected. She was very good at deflecting. Instead, she said, the building needed someone who could see it clearly. I thought I could only do that if no one knew it was me. And who is you? She set down the coffee, straightened, and for just a moment, before she could say it, she watched his face as she crossed back over the invisible line between Elena and herself, the shift in posture, the drop of the performance, the thing that happened when she stopped pretending to be smaller. Celine Voss, she said, I own the building. The silence lasted 3 full seconds. Then Daniel Reyes let out a breath that was almost a laugh. He pressed one hand briefly over his mouth. Put it down. Okay, he said. Which was, she was beginning to understand what he said when something surprised him so much that any other word would be insufficient. I'm sorry, she said. For the deception. I want you to know everything I've seen, everything I'm going to change. It's because of what the people here showed me, including you. He nodded slowly. What happens now? I go back upstairs, I fix what's broken. She hesitated, which she almost never did. And I was hoping, if it isn't completely inappropriate, that maybe I could take the man who argued with me about chair rotation to dinner, so he can argue with me about something else. This time, the almost laugh became a real one. Low and surprised and genuinely warm. That, he said, is the strangest professional development pitch I've ever heard. I own the building, she reminded him. I get to pitch however I like. He picked up his coffee, considered the tarmac, considered her. Thursday, he said. She made 7 structural changes in the weeks that followed. Supervisor retraining, supply chain transparency, a new anonymous reporting tool she named, internally, the bucket after the thing that had started everything. The lounge review scores climbed. And on Thursday, Daniel Reyes sat across from her at a small Italian restaurant that had nothing to do with airports. And they argued happily about whether natural light affected productivity. She said yes. He said the data was inconclusive, and she drank wine that was not as good as the terrible morning coffee, and she thought that sometimes the most important thing a leader could do was take off the blindfold, and sometimes, in doing so, you found something you hadn't known you were looking for.